You are listening to I Am Refocused podcast with your host, Shemaya Reed. This podcast is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. Now, let's tune into today's podcast.
Hey, this is I Am Refocused podcast. Once again, we have another awesome episode for you guys. Today, we are talking to Roxanne Burkey and Charles Breakfield. How are you guys doing today?
Outstanding. It's such a great day. Thank you so much. How about you?
I'm doing awesome. So for our audience, we are going to be talking about their book on the second half of the show, but I want you guys to get to know them better. So Miss Roxanne, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I actually am a technologist by profession. So I have 25 plus years in technology working for various manufacturers. And I have been a subject matter expert, a customer experience expert, and have written technical manuals, which is how Charles and I actually started writing, was nonfiction technical manuals.
So my name is Charles Breakfield, and I've got the distinction of being in the technical industry for 25 years, and I'm a techno geek by admission. I'm the person they bring in to fix what the salesperson sold. So it kind of gives you an idea that, you know, I'm an architect, engineer, an analyst for voice data networks for Fortune 50 companies. So they dispatch me, and I have a lot of fun. And that's where we get a lot of our background information when we started doing some of these technical thrillers that we build. So I like to ride my Harley on the weekends. I enjoy meeting new people and having fun with the discovery process throughout Texas. I love to go camping. It's a fun lifestyle being here in the great state of Texas.
And also with you, Roxanne, when you guys decided to start writing the book, the Enigma, that we're going to talk about in the second half, how did you guys officially meet to want to start writing about this thing?
Great question. So we actually met working in the same organization, writing technical manuals and doing workshops for systems engineers, sales engineers, and account managers for the technology products that belong to the companies. We got tired of writing non-fictional material because technology is stale, very shortly after it's delivered. I mean, look at today. You can't even have an iPhone for more than, 2 years before it's outdated and replaced with something better. So, we decided that we would take our experience and our professional people that we've met, places that we have gone, and wrap it into just a very fun, fictional series, which we put in a genre called techno thrillers. So it has a technology foundation. On top of that, we wrap travel, a little bit of romance, a little bit of mystery, intrigue, and then humor, which, quite honestly, I'm still learning humor. Charles does most of the humor.
And when it comes to writing, you both being authors, what is that process like when you're trying to put everything on paper, your thoughts together, and organize it? Talk to our listeners about that process.
So you should understand we have a patent pending process. It's called literary ping pong. And what we do is, it's sort of the luck of the draw. One of us will wake up early in the morning and go, aha, I got a swell idea. And you will work on it for like 2 hours, and we'll bat it over to the other one. And then it's an iterative process, back and forth, until we get not only the story Smith the way we want, but the characters with the right flavor. And it all has to integrate into the story. And so it's a very interesting process. It doesn't always work. Sometimes I'll wake up, write for 2 hours, send something over, and I get this IM, and the window comes up. It goes, what were you thinking? So sometimes we get that those creative moments that are like well, they need more creativeness to it, or they're too creative, or take your pick. So, but that process seems to work for us. Even our editors, after we get finished with the literary ping pong, they can't really tell who wrote a particular chapter. They might get little snippets and be suspicious, but it gives a story that single voice. So it's almost impossible to figure out, where the idea come from or where it originated, because we're polishing on it all the time.
And for you, Roxanne, what would you say is your favorite part of this process?
Oh, I think the favorite part of the process, to be honest with you, is when we get a character down and it's exactly the way we envisioned it, exactly the way we want it to be. And it doesn't always start that way. Sometimes a character really takes on a life of their own, and it's like, oh, wow, that's just not really how I wanted that to happen. But when it gets all tight and reworked, and the character is resonating with the reviewers that we have, because we use a lot of beta reviewers, then it's like, okay, this one hits. This one's a good one.
And when it comes to the series, because I want the audience to know that this is a series, what's some of the things that they can look forward to?
Oh, golly, that is a great question, too. You've got some good questions. So the series itself, each book in the series can be read totally independently. But if you read them in order from the series perspective, then the characters evolve in a way that makes it a much richer story. So, Charles, kind of quick foundation for what the series has.
So each one of the books, we take a different theme for your consideration. So each one's got a different attack vector. So the first book is about identity theft, and that's where we introduce the characters and the all of the different story threads. And then book number 2 is about our favorite bad boys that have learned to be able to cloak their questionable business practices from satellite observance. So they're moving goods and services and people and their illegal monies transparently. Book number 3, we look at something that might be interesting to you: battlefield communications, using nanotechnology and drones to be able to keep our people safe in the field. And book 4, we get into the computer supervirus that has learned to be able to adapt itself behind the computer firewalls that people think keep them safe. So, we take a different theme and we exercise it, and we strain the characters with the emotional and the psychological drama that we build. And it creates for you a very satisfying story for the people that go through it.
So, for example, I've had people that have picked up one of the books in the middle. In fact, there is one, book number 6, which actually talks about extending life based on DNA and modifying DNA. And she took it because she was a cancer victim, and she just was very excited about the possibility of being able to modify things. So we take real technology that's available today, and we kind of push it to the extent. And because we are in the technology field, we've seen an awful lot of technology evolve over time. And some things come to the consumers as consumer goods, and some things stay in the back room while they try and find a real way to use it. So we've seen both sides.
But just to put the very, very blunt line in the sand, it's about the technical good guys versus the technical bad guys in each one of the different themes that we chose to exercise.
As you were giving all those details, I couldn't help but just vision that in my mind. Like it's almost sounds like it can be a cartoon as well. I don't know if someone might be listening, you might want to connect with these two, because when we get deeper into this in the second half, I want to discuss even further some of the little teasers that you can offer to the audience. And one of the things I really like about this podcast, we get a variety of people, and for you to be a team duel, to have a book together, That's pretty awesome. What's some of the amazing things that you are appreciating about this process too, as two people coming together, presenting a book to a whole audience?
Our primary editor is Charles' wife, so it's kind of a family thing between the two families, and we find that the balance between having us as co-authors with each other, so we're a guy and a girl, as it were, those characters that we have, and we have 50 plus characters in the series, but we have a way of creating a character and then being able to say, that girl would not say that sort of line at this point, or the same thing in reverse. Hey, a guy would never, ever do that. That just doesn't happen. So we kind of help make it a whole richer experience because, the ego's not there between us per se, but we can help make it a richer story because we accept constructive criticism from each other, I guess is...
I'd have to agree with that. It's there's the ambition to be able to tell the very best possible story with believable characters and dialogue that many times it's like people have said, I know exactly who this guy is. Are you sure this isn't me? And so we've captured what we think is a very interesting attribute, which is our history, the people that we know. And we often look for people to be in our books. So and that's one of the things I'm going to ask you is hey, we need a new evil genius in our next book. So if you got a resume, let me know because we'll certainly consider you.
Well, that's an awesome segue to get in this first commercial break. We are talking to the co-authors of the Enigma Broker, Mr. Charles Breakfield and Roxanne Burkey. Do not touch that iPhone. We will be right back.
Welcome to Rockefeller's Barbershop. This is the day that the Lord has made, and I will be blessed and be glad in Him. Today I want to introduce myself. My name is Rico Rodriguez at Rockefeller's Barbershop here in San Antonio, Texas, 1733 Babcock Road. My phone number is 210-782-5188. And again, we do walk-ins on Sundays. You are listening to I Am Refocused podcast on iHeartRadio. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.
Does your website need more traffic? Well, visit overflowcafe.com today. They make websites popular, and over 41,000 people use their service to gain more customers. They are winning our business. What about you? Visit overflowcafe.com today.
This is I Am Refocused podcast, and welcome back to the show. We are still talking to Mr. Charles Breakfield and Roxanne Burkey, and now the second half, the Bear Get You Popcorn, because this is going to be amazing. We're going to dive even deeper. You both, Roxanne or Charles, one of y'all can jump in. Give us the origin of the series and give us the backstory of this whole book.
It's an important element, so thank you for asking that question. So the origin of the good guys, which we put in an umbrella called the R group, so the cyber good guys, actually have their foundation back in World War II. There were three gentlemen that came from Poland and were driven out of Poland by the Germans. On their way out, they captured a copy of the Enigma machine, which I'm sure your listeners all realize is the foundation for even today's computer, and they copied it on their way out. So they helped turn it over to the Brits, who helped win the war, and then they also took a copy and formed the R group as a high-end information gathering, wealth preservation for Europeans from that point in time. It fast forwards all the way to today for the current technology that's available. So the history is there from a moral code perspective, from a do the right thing.
It's the good guys versus the bad guys, and we shuttle in bad guys on a rather frequent basis. So it's like, okay, how do the good guys, where do they come from? So as Roxanne indicated, they had their roots all the way back to World War II, and you fast forward to today, where we're looking at the Enigma broker, where it's what's happening to the commodity prices. What happened to the good old supply and demand metrics that we were taught in high school and college, and the way that you would distort that equation is you would tamper with the inputs going in. So I basically say, hey, there's more oil out there than everybody reported, and if the numbers are bogus enough, but with a little bit of believability, then I can push the supply numbers up, which drives the price down. There are so many dependencies for corporations and whole countries on price stability of commodities that you can start destabilizing corporations, the whole planet, basically, by distorting the numbers being fed in. So it's a very interesting equation, and we have some really swell, evil geniuses in broker, and a couple of that regret having been enforcers in this world. So it's not they're all bad, these are all good. There are variants in between, and it's a very satisfying story for the reader.
I really like one of the reviews that I found on somewhere on the web. They were saying it's amazing how you guys tied in social media and technology into each page, and so this mystery of this whole book of people trying to problem solve as they're turning the page and seeing how the characters are developing. Was it a challenge when you guys were writing this, as far as, man, what am I going to have this character do? Or was it just something that naturally flowed?
So it's always a challenge to make sure the characters do the right thing. But, if you just look at the last 18 months, and you look at the influence of social media on how people make their decisions and how people decide right from wrong, or who should be punished, or who should be, risen to the top, and so on and so forth. It's all done with such small pieces of information, often not even verifiable. And that's another one of the subtle points of the Enigma broker is we are influenced without even digging down to find out all of the information. I'm not saying one side is right or one side is wrong, but we're doing a disservice, I think, to ourselves by accepting what 1,000 of our friends on social media say just because they're 1,000 of our friends.
That is very true. What about your thoughts on that, Charles? I'm
always interested in the way that disinformation can be propagated, and the end result. I always look for where are the dollars behind the decision, and so the Enigma broker kind of follows that theme of, okay, where's the money and who's pushing those buttons, and how far deep are they into? We come up with a term called DMOs, dark matter organizations, and from that we talk. The reference for dark matter organizations are just because you can't see them doesn't mean they don't exist. So a parallel to dark matter in the cosmos. We thought it was sort of an interesting parallel because it has a lot of the same attributes. Why are things moving when you can't see what is really the truth? So, this has a lot of sleight of hand, and information brokers that know that they're being watched, and they're feeding disinformation subtly. That's hard to be able to refute until somebody says, "Wait a minute, this is not right. You can't run this many trains back and forth, dump this much coal into the marketplace for this kind of a price drop." The mathematics don't add up, and so we start seeing those cracks in the lies that are being propagated in the Enigma broker.
And part of it's greed. One of the things we have out on our website that is always fun, and it's free to anybody who's watching this podcast, and that is there's book trailers out on the website for each of the stories. And Broker was a particularly fascinating one because it's all about following the money. Who's to blame, who's to gain, who's to win, who's to lose is all about where's the money.
When it comes to you marketing as an author as well, what's some of the things that you found best practice?
I think one of the best practices has been a part of these tours. Now, the Enigma Broker and the rest of the Enigma series itself is really geared toward 18 and above. There are some scenes that probably are a little too mature for kids. But I think these tours that go across the internet, like what we're a part of in having the opportunity to speak with you, are one of the best things. I think that some of the tips and tricks that we do out on Pinterest are something that's interesting for people. We use Twitter, we use Facebook, and we'd love to have everybody on this podcast follow us. But, there is so much noise out there that the length of time that those marketing elements stay alive are limited compared to like Pinterest. So,
yeah, but in answer to your question about the marketing attributes, it comes down to one thing, and that's people buy from people. So if you get to see or talk to an author, it like in this particular environment where we're talking to you, I feel like we got some of your interest, and you're like, hey, look, I might never have looked at this book, but after listening to these folks, I might go over to that website, enigmaseries.com. I might take a look at those video vignettes that give me a 60 or 90 second vignette of what to expect for the book. So if you're really serious about your product and your branding, you got to go meet the people, to answer to your question.
Well, that's true even with you, right? People do business with you because they enjoy what you're sharing from a podcast perspective. And I would hope the same if they come and visit us or visit the website. I also think it's important to know that these books are available in different formats. The first 6 are actually available in Audible because some people just don't have time to read. They're busy commuting or whatever. So we have Audible formats, and we continue to evolve those.
And I'll just kind of camp onto that. The Audibles were... we have the hard copy and we got the ebooks, but the Audibles were a bit of a stretch, and I'll be honest, I didn't expect the impact, how much impact I would have, the new media would have on us. So, and it's not just somebody reading it. So if you think that's please get rid of that idea. It's a voice actor, and we need a voice actor to be able to pull through the rich characters of the 150 character universe we've got. So when hearing our own property that we wrote spilled out over an audio link was, I'll be honest, astonishing. It's like, wow, what a quantum leap. The characters and this gentleman that we're working with, phenomenal, because he's like, okay, what nationality? What sort of accent should I have? And he pulls back on so many different things just to give it the right flavor and seasoning so that the story flows and it's not a distraction. It's actually enhanced when he reads it.
And there's a couple of extra elements in the stories. They're not just pure technology. So if you're not a techno geek, you're going to still enjoy the story because it's not a textbook. There's humor in here, and because life has humor in it. And if we can't smile a little bit, even in the middle of tragedy, then we're not trying. There's also romance. People are people, and you have romantic entanglements as you go down and continue a path with people that cross your path. So those elements are also key to the story. It's not just one dimensional, and the audio formats really bring that out.
And like you said, real people, and this podcast is perfect because it's all about real people. We interview all walks of life, from CEOs to music artists to you name it, sports athletes and book authors. And we stress in this podcast that each person has a story, and you both, Mr. Charles and Roxanne, you have a story. You are co-authors of an amazing series. And I will say this before we wrap up this show. When it comes to doing what you love, I would probably be safe to say that you both love writing. Is that true?
Yep, fair statement.
I think you captured it correctly. Yes, sir.
And that's the whole mission of this podcast, is to highlight individuals who are living their dream and who are out there doing it, because it takes action to have results. So as we have these last few minutes, I'm going to have you both. I'll start with you, Roxanne. Talk to someone out there who is maybe stuck. Maybe they want to write, but they can't get out of their head. What's some words of wisdom that you can share with them just to give them that extra boost?
I think that everyone has a story in them. Now, it takes, to a degree, a little bit of courage to tell that story. But today, there are so many tools, and there are so many writers and authors willing to help one another, that do it. Don't not do it. You can always have it polished. You can always have it enhanced. You can send it to us at authors@enigmaseries.com, and we'll take a look at it and give you some honest feedback. Not criticism necessarily, but honest feedback, because that's how we all learn. And that's why we love reviews on our books.
Yeah. So what I would say is that it's practice. You gotta practice. If you want to do something, I mean, look at your profession. You didn't get it right 100% the first time that you said, "I'm going to do a podcast." I can see the polish, the effect that you've got, the correct questions, the shepherding of the interview. So writing is no different. You've got to do it, and if you need to do it every day, even if it's just 25 minutes. But 2 hours is really, that's my benchmark. I need 2 hours worth of writing time to be able to get something in place, because I don't get it right the first time. So it's always about practice, and then go at it again, and go at it again, and realize that you might stumble. Whatever you do, don't give up.
There's one quote I want to leave before I completely wrap this up, and that is by Babe Ruth. He said one famous quote about, you cannot win today's games with yesterday's home runs, and that's very true. And just like what you said, Charles, it's all about practice. You can't hit a home run if you don't know how to swing a bat, and you can't even swing a bat if you don't pick one up. So it's all about showing up. It's all about getting after what you want to do in life, and you both are doing that. So I got some homework for the audience out there, man. I want you right now, get a pen and piece of paper. If you're driving, just pause this until you get home. You need to go to enigmabookseries.com. And for Roxanne and Charles, if you don't mind, share with us your social media so they can stay connected with you.
So Twitter is at Enigma Series. Facebook is at Enigma Series. Pinterest is the Enigma Series. And we would love to feel those connections. Never fail to try, even if you're going to fail. Don't quit.
I agree with that. So if we can give you some pointers, we won't do the homework for you. You got to do that yourself. But we'll give you the signpost and read that one, because that'll get you closer to where you want to go.
I love it. I love it. Well, once again, it's been an honor to have both Mr. Charles Breakfield and Miss Roxanne Burkey, and we are talking about the book, The Enigma Broker. You want to go check out the series, and you want to go support these book authors, because they're doing what most people are not willing to do, and that's sit down and write. So like we always close every broadcast, always 100% keep God first, stay focused, and